This light is the light of the soul that removes the negativity, the darkness within and around. The beauty of the soul comes from pure thoughts, peaceful words, and benevolent actions. The light of the Supreme Light, the Supreme Soul, can ignite many lamps and heal and restore to a new beginning. The Festival of Lights is a celebration and a reminder to always be ignited and connected to the Supreme Light. Celebrate the ignited living light within.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to our today's fifth day of Ignited Living Lamp. And so, and also Sister Elizabeth is here with us. So I welcome you, Sister Elizabeth, to Dallas from San Francisco. And it's your 6 o'clock probably, or 8 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
We do meditation every evenings, our bhatti, 6:30 to 7:30 bhatti. So everyone had half an hour to uh, break, half an hour break, and then they're all back on the screen. So thank you for being with us. We've been longing to invite you here. You remember? We want
Yes.
to do programs, a special program, meditation and music, but it never happened, right? You said I will come and we'll see. And so anyway, you for being with us this evening. We welcome you, and I ask Sister Nima to read your bio before we start.
Good evening, everyone. Sister Elizabeth is a meditation teacher and practitioner for 35 years of experience with Raj Yoga. She lives at the Brahma Kumari's Anubhuti Meditation and Retreat Center, just north of San Francisco, California, where she manages the programming and retreats. She also leads the Brahma Kumari's environmental initiative in the US. She is a gifted actor and singer trained at the American Conservatory Theater. Sister Elizabeth is a spiritual educator. Her education and career includes work in theater, music, and 20 years experience in human resources and program management, 12 years in interfaith work. She's fulfilling her life's dream by reaching the heart and spirit through her songs and work. Welcome, Sister Elizabeth.
Thank you.
So, welcome, Sister Elizabeth. All the living lights, ignited lamps are inviting you and meeting you
Yeah.
now. So, let's have a special evening.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Ranjan. And thank you so much for the introduction. That was very gracious. Um, it's interesting hearing my bio because parts of it is really old. I left the theater in the late 80s. It's interesting because I've always been drawn towards the light. I think this is a really lovely topic, being that ignited lamp versus striving for that lamp, that light. And in the theater, as you know, it's like the limelight. And I was very young and very lucky, actually, because I was able to get work and I did very well. I think I must have worked for about maybe 12 years. And this is in classical theater, musical theater, and I was also trained in classical singing. But it wasn't enough. I really felt like this isn't me. I really felt another calling. I had no idea what was in store in the drama. So I just quit my job. I had an excellent job. And I broke an engagement, and I went on a year sabbatical. And a sabbatical means a spiritual retreat for 1 year for myself. And I wasn't looking for God. I was looking for truth. And that was my little lamp in the dark, right? So we're coming from this false sense of light. It didn't bring me happiness. I felt very disillusioned by the theater. It was fake. I would go backstage. In front of the stage, it looks like this amazing scenery and actors and characters and so on. But behind, it's just boards and sandbags and sets. It's all fake. It's illusion. And I've also felt that the people I met, maybe they were famous or well known, and I'd get to know them, and they're nothing like the persona, that they basically they have a persona that they present to the world, and it's not really them. Not that there was anything wrong with their natural sanskaras, but it was starkly different. So I felt that the whole theater world of lights was fake. So some little memory inside of me was guiding me and saying, there's something more. I want what's real. I want what's truth. And when, let's see, I was 25 when I went on sabbatical, and then one of my friends told me about the Brahma Kumaris, one of my theater friends. And in those days, the center was just a flat on Clement Street in San Francisco. And I climbed up the stairs, and there was Sister Gita. I never even met a person from India. In 1985, I never had the pleasure of encountering someone from that culture. And when I sat with her, she was so sincere, so peaceful, so essenceful. I said, I want to be like her. Something sparked. So a spark, right? So Baba begins to work on this lamp, me. And fortunately, after taking up the meditation, I had time because I made a sabbatical for myself. And I came to the center every day, and Daddy Janki came like 6 weeks later from when I first came into the door. Now talk about a lamp. And when she came in, this tiny woman, and there were maybe 100 of us in the room, she lit everyone in that room. And coming from a theater background, I could tell that something was happening. It was more than just stage presence. It was more than, it was not a performance. She was just giving drishti to the whole room. That eye contact, just giving that loving eye contact, but really igniting the lamp of each one to be soul conscious. And I said to myself, I don't know if this woman is God, but I know, or I don't know about God, but I know this woman knows God. So here's a soul who wasn't sure about God, but I was sure this woman, Dadi Janki, knew God. And as she spoke, she just started to go from this powerful, Shakti to this innocent angel. And it was so dynamic. I said, wow, now I'm going to go to India. That's it. So she lit that little lamp for me. It was just a tiny little lamp of realization. But I went with that. And I would sit in Baba's room every morning after class. And then I would come in the evening and I would sit in Baba's room. And I was preparing myself to go to India. And so one special experience, and I've never had any experience like this before or after. And I was sitting in Baba's room, and this is a very simple flat. I almost miss those days when it was just the center was very modest, and you had to climb another flight of stairs to get to this small room where there was this trance light and then that red lamp with a little light sticking out of it. And I was looking up at that little beaming light. And I finally had this realization. It was like another lamp was lit. This is the experience I've had on my journey, is that going through this dark hallway, Baba keeps lighting these lamps for me. And I was looking at that lamp on the trance light, and it's just this little fairy light that's sticking out. And all of a sudden I had this realization, oh, you're my dad. Now, coming from my upbringing, Christian upbringing, and I had this endearment for the first time. God was no longer this bearded person in the clouds for me. He was my dad. And that intimate realization created an experience. This light comes into the room and fills the room with light. And this amazing experience, this like as if everything in my soul became unwound. I had no care or worry in the world. It was a lightness. So I was amazed at this experience, and I said, wait a minute, what's going on? You know, my cynical voice sort of kicked in, like, what's happening? And I said, I don't know, this is amazing. I pinched myself and I said, no, yeah, it's still there. And we didn't have laser light shows in the 80s. So this is in 85. And it looked like a laser light in the room. And I made myself get up, stand up, and I walked out of the room. I got my composure. I said, okay, I looked around. This is normal. It's a staircase. Okay, everything's normal. I went back into the meditation room. And again, that light, Baba, Shiv Baba, comes in and then emanates the room. And it's like just pulsating in the room and lifting and unwinding any kind of, like if there was a spring that was really tightly wound up, it just like went ka-choom and loosened whatever heaviness the soul had at that moment. And I said, well, I might as well enjoy it. And I just waited for it to subside. And that was a very deep light that Baba lit for this soul. And I wasn't the same after that, if I may say so. It was like weeks. I was sort of on cloud 9. And Sister Chandru said, we better have a string tied to you. And I said, oh, and I realized, okay, I better ground myself. So I just kind of came back to the earth, so to speak. I made that effort and not get lost into that experience, because somehow I felt, again, my mission was to find what was real. And yes, that experience was amazing. And so I developed a little equation for myself because I like math. And my little equation was A plus B in little parentheses, okay, plus C equals D. Okay? I don't know. I don't have a marker that's dark enough. And I don't think you would see it if I wrote it, maybe. So A plus B plus C equals D. So can you, okay, yeah, you can see that. So that was my little equation. And this AB is alpha and beta, or you could say Atma and Baba. And into itself, it's amazing. You know, we're with Baba and he lights our lamp. That memory kicks in. Why do I know this? And it's like amazing experience. But how do I know it's real? How do I know I'm just, you know, having, I don't know, an illusory experience? And so I said, okay, this is where I need to add the cycles of change. So here's this continuum experience, this bodiless experience being lit once again by that divine presence, by God. And now I need to make it real. This is where I guess you could say the rubber meets the road. And I began to experiment on how does that relationship show up in this field of change. And then I thought, okay, then the results will be D, destiny, or desired result. So that satisfied me because I didn't want to get caught up into something that wasn't me. I wanted to be sincere on this venture to India, or adventure to India. And so I made that formula and I said, come on, let's give it a good try. I want to learn how to make this experience of being ignited by this divine light practical in everyday life. And so I make my way. There was a group of 15 of us with Sister Chandru and Sister Gita and the whole family. And we make our way to India. And when I arrived, if you think about it, it was in 86, February of 86. And India was in a very troubled time because it was 2 years after the assassination of Indira Gandhi, okay? And we come into the Delhi airport, and it's, in those days, you had to walk on the tarmac to get into the airport, from the airplane to the tarmac and into the airport. And it was surrounded by barbed wire and men with guns. And a voice in me, my little advocate spine came up, and I thought to myself, look what they did to my India. I thought, that's an interesting thought. I've claimed India as my India with a passion. And again, another lamp. It's like going through this corridor through our memory lane, right? And Baba keeps on lighting these lamps for me of things that give this soul meaning and a sense of purpose, triggering the different poignant experiences or memories that I've had in my many lifetimes searching for God, for 63 births, at least so I was told. But I wanted to make it real. I wanted to understand and make it interface with everyday life. And so we make our way to the train the next day. And I was just so in love with Baba. And it was my first time on a train through India. And it was just so, I don't know what to say, romantic. And the train tracks, right? They're going yickety, 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 yickety. And you look at these beautiful saris in the wind as women are walking with their children, and you see and this is when India was a third the population, right? Back in the day, and then these beautiful peacocks flying in the air and then landing on the ground. I'm going, God, I got to pinch myself. Is this a dream? It was just so magnificent. And I just said, I sat quietly on that train and I just felt like I'm going to see God. I'm going to see God. Yickety, 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 yickety. Going to see God. Going to see God. And then I just broke out into song. Ah, yickety, yickety, ah. Yickety, yickety, yickety. I must have sung for about like, I don't know, 40 minutes. Just to like, I was in harmony with the elements, with the train, and with our journey to Madhuban. And when I stopped, everybody was meditating in the car where I was sitting. And then the brothers in the next car pounded on the wall and said, "Don't stop." But I became shy, and but I knew we were on this journey together. And I was just picking up on that.
Sister Elizabeth, your voice is gone down.
Aha. Oh yeah. Let me double check on. Is it still down?
A little bit better now.
Okay.
Yeah, still down though.
If I move this closer, okay, is it still down? Sukanya? I'm calling Sukanya because this is her laptop.
So are you in San Francisco?
Yeah. We took Sister Chandru. She's been in the hospital, and so everything worked out really well for her. So let me try something here.
I think it's better now. It's better now.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. My voice was going out, and I guess I wanted to make sure I was still online with everybody.
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay. Now it's okay. Thank you, sister. That's okay. So now I make my way up the mountain. So Baba has lit this lamp of purpose, this lamp of that intimate connection with God.
You can mention Supreme Soul, Shiva Baba, because there are some new students also.
Oh, sure. But this intimate connection in that time, I just knew it was an intimate connection with God. The Shiv Baba part is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
That realization is coming up. So far, I've just satisfied this, longing of search for so many lifetimes for the divine, for God. So I understood at that time. And when I sat in front of Bap Dada, that was a whole different experience. And it was America's turn that day that we arrived. So we had just arrived in the afternoon, and we had to quickly get dressed. And we were on the stage of Om Shanti Bhavan, sharing on that stage with all the other souls from the Americas. Maybe there was 100 of us there. And then Dadi Gulzar comes into the room. And of course, she's magnificent. And as she sat, I could feel, because being on the stage was nothing unusual for me, but that experience was extraordinary. And being on the stage and feeling when Bap Dada's presence shifts that whole vibration of that hall. And I went, whoa. And of course, Bap Dada's drishti, Shiv Baba's drishti, Bap and Dada, right? It pans the room. And then I'm sort of at the end of that gaze as Bap Dada looks through the room, but it was almost I could see this beacon of light emanating into the hall. And yes, I have a dramatic nature. but I'm not a visionary. I'm not like, I don't usually have visions, but this was a little special. I could just feel how everyone would just swoon and be filled with that, like as if he was lighting each and every lamp in that hallway. And then when his eyes met mine, I felt like he was looking at me for a long time, but it was just a moment, but it felt like maybe 5 minutes. And in that suspended moment, I said, I don't know who you are yet, but I know you know me, and I know you, and I belong to you. And that was clear. So that recognition, so again, another lamp in that corridor journey, right? As I make my way through the dark night of the soul. And so the next time we had special meetings, he gave the soul really lovely blessings. I was over the moon, and it was amazing. And then Bab Dada would come every 3 days. And so these are this wonderful experiences we would have in our headquarters. And so much love and blessings were given to each and every soul. And I started to get jealous. And I started to get uncomfortable. And then I started to comparing myself with others. And then I said, wait a minute. And I started to sulk. And I go halfway to the back of the hall. And then I go, and it was like a thermometer was ready to just burst inside of me. And it was just gradually going up like this with every waste thought. And then finally, I had a realization. Oh my God, he loves each and every one more than the next because you are God. And that's when the soul had that realization, God realization. And the soul was lit. So Shiv Baba, the light of his light ignited this light. And then of course, I belong to this big family and the world, you know, and I can certainly share the light of the divine. And so that was my experience in that light and having that amazing fullness. And it's interesting because it's like, you know, it's your path, you know, it's familiar, and it's just awakening something that you know is yours. And because it's unlimited energy from God, the more you share, the more abundant you feel. And that was definitely new for this soul. Can you imagine that if you're lit and the more you share that light, then the greater that light will become in the world. And to be part of that. So that was pretty much, you know, that experience of being lit. And it was sort of the honeymoon phase on my spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. And then as you go along, what happens? And you're doing service and you're being available for people, which I enjoy. And I let go of the theater. It no longer had any attraction to me. I remember going up to Dadi and saying that I, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do both. I get, you know, I said, I have no love for this. And it just doesn't hold a flame for me anymore. It doesn't hold a candlelight to me anymore. And I just was natural. I just let it go. And Dadi said, oh, good, good, good. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't she tell me that before? And I realized, oh, you know, the soul has to make its decisions for itself. And that's one thing that I love about Raj Yoga, is that, you know, we have to stand on our own merits, stand on our own 2 feet, and have that realization for the soul. And so this prepared me for the next phase of my my BK life, and that was taking on responsibility, which is a little different, because we find ourselves dependent on the light of others that illumine your life. And you know, like I've had amazing experiences with the Dadis, you know, Dadi Prakashmani and Dadi Janki. I've been very blessed. And I remember having a surrender ceremony, and Dadi Prakashmani came and gave me drishti. And for some reason, I was just so shy. And she just grabbed me and hugged me. And she put this pin. I love wearing this pin because she put this one on me. And I said, no, I already have one, because I didn't know about silver badges, gold badges, teachers badges, this badge, whatever. And she goes, no, you wear this one. And so she gave me this, you know, simple gold badge, and I love it. And the drishti she gave me was like, wow. And she's just looking at the soul, and she's always practicing soul consciousness and remaining lit. And I find this to be really interesting, especially right now when we're dealing with staying at home and we're just with ourselves. And if you're practicing yogi, it's actually quite inviting, and it's not so bad. And we enjoy the silence. We enjoy the quiet time. But for some of us, it became more busy with the Zoom world and how service has opened up on that level. But on the whole, in domestic life, we're spending more time with our families. So then we get a chance to share that light that Shiv Baba has given us, and in a practical way, on how we remain mature, how we remain stable. This year has somehow been an amazing year. My Lokik mother passed away in April, and a lot of challenges have happened in the year for the family. My sister had some issues, my Lokik sister. And so for the first time this year, I had to be there, hands-on, to help out. And my family gave this soul so many blessings. And it was something I didn't ever anticipate would happen. And they love my life. They love that I have the life that I lead. And for them, it's brought a lot of strength for them. And so for any of these family events, they want me to say something or do something or share something. And whereas in the beginning, they were very hesitant. But I never, ever forced the light on them. I said, they're going to know the light by seeing how that light has made me lit. So whatever dark situations may happen or challenges, that I just remain light and easy and present. And my brother literally put his hand on my head. And he is not a formal type of person. He's a school teacher. He's a trainer. He put his hand on my head and he said, you're the matriarch of this family. I have a huge family. And he gives this blessing. And after all these challenges through the years, and that was so sweet. And so that for me was a validation of how the light becomes real. And so that was my desired result, and it's destined. Also, I've come across some interesting individuals who I really respect in the science world, and they really love coming to the Brahma Kumaris. But it's interesting how you meet certain people, certain souls, and they challenge you because you're trying to communicate and they really want to know, and you're trying to dispel the darkness of omnipresence. So our conversations would be about omnipresence and how we can explain that this light is omnipotent. And, by connecting to it, the only way you're going to know what's real is by just giving it a go and creating that relationship with this light. And it's an invisible light in the sense, if you're thinking of scientific properties, but it's an inward journey, inward light, because in the science world, they believe all of energy, and it's a form of light, but the conscient energy. And the only way you're going to know the difference between the gross physical energy, which it has its own illumination depending on its frequency and its vibration and all of that. But that experience or insperience, as Mike George says, that inner journey, experiencing your presence, your conscient presence, getting to know yourself, getting to know that inner dialogue, shedding light on the dark places, because they'll just pop up when they need to, when they're ready to be shifted or changed, right? Those challenges will come up. We don't have to look for them. We don't have to look for the dark. When the challenges come, I just stay lit in that soul conscious essence. And I love this topic of essence. Not a lot of chatter, just being present and shifting the energy within that relationship. I love this metaphor of the tree, that's in Raj Yoga, and it expands to where then it bumps into each other, the leaves and the twigs, but they're all connected to the seed, to the essence. If I waste my time out on the limb and I'm all disturbed by a particular branch or twig or even a leaf on the tree, I've just cut myself off from the whole tree by being fixated on one leaf. And then I'll find myself out on a limb. I'll feel abandoned, I'll feel alone, because I'm fixated by a particular relationship. But when I would meditate, when I'd have an issue with maybe a relative or someone at work, I would just see the good in them and I would connect to the seed. So I tried this out just to be essenceful. And I said, who am I to try and fix things? Let me fix myself. I can only fix myself. I can only change myself. And so I would just remember Shiv Baba, connect to that light, be lit, and then follow my instincts. And this is where I feel the essence becomes sensible, because you're actually more sensitive to what is sensible, to do the right thing. And in one circumstance, I was working for someone who was such a challenge. He was my boss, and he had this big voice, and everyone was terrified of him. And I thought to myself, I do not want to be intimidated by this person. So I said, I have to work on me. And I thought, I'm only going to see the sweetness in that soul, the light in the other. And I just focused on the light of the other. And his gruff nature began to shift. I wasn't trying to change him. I just wanted to be calm. My aim was to remain lit. And it took a year. And one day, this doctor called me into his office. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? And he started talking to me, and I went, oh. And it was sort of a philosophical kind of question. And then I expanded on it, and then he expanded on it. And then before you know it, we were really in this deep, meaningful conversation. And he stopped, and he goes, wait a minute, like, this isn't in the script. I mean, and he goes, you know, Elizabeth, I've never met anyone quite like you. And from then on, we became really good friends. And what I realized, when I remain lit, I can light the way for others or become a bridge for others by seeing their goodness. Because I noticed what I would do is I would notice how he was not just this big old grizzly bear, you know, gruff and rough on the outside, but inside he would giggle with the patients, or he would make these funny jokes. So I would focus on that little teddy bear. And so I shed light on that part of him. And then he felt safe. What I realized was he had this big grizzly bear front, external presentation, because he was intimidated by his environment. And that was his way of dealing with it. I didn't go into the psychology of it at the time. At the time, I just wanted to be strong and not intimidated, just loving and be myself. And by doing that, it made me sensible and sensitive to his light, his lightness, where he could feel safe to be himself with me. And we became such good friends that when I left, after working with him for 5 years, you know, he had tears welling up in his eyes, you know. So it was sort of, you know, it was just, for me, it's just validating, you know, what Baba has given to this soul. And remaining lit is a power for sure. We can have these experiences and they're wonderful. And that's why I really go back to that equation. The A plus B, I put it in parentheses because it's just this lovely little world we can create. But we make it real when we bring it out into our cycles of change, our karmas. When we start to bring light, that beacon, or that sakash, which means a beacon of light, into reality, which changes what's real into the changing reality, right? It's relative. But the results is the proof. So that's, for me, was a scientific approach to understanding and defining and collecting the data for spirituality. So that's how I was able to make these amazing experiences of being lit from within and reigniting that connection with something that didn't feel, it felt so distant, God, you know. For me, it was this fearing, vengeful, you know, angry God that it would wage wars. And I couldn't relate, but I couldn't say there wasn't this light. I couldn't say there wasn't God. But in my journey, in a very sweet way, that light would grow. And that's why I feel on my little journey, it feels like these little lamps lit, lighting my way on my journey. So I'd have realization. So I would have heart connection light. So I would have peace of mind lit. So my relationships would be lit. And so that also I would have what's real present in what's changing. So I could go on, but I see.
Go on, go ahead then.
Okay.
It is like our good, nice stories that, you know, how we listen to stories and like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So blessed. I remembered, you know, it's interesting because my journey was all about being real. And maybe about, I think maybe it was 15 years ago. And I don't know, Sister Chandra was doing some project. So I started helping her with this project. Maybe it was 20 years ago, actually. And I was telling her of a situation. I think we were sewing. And I said, what should I do? And she said to me, sister, all you have to do is be real. And when she said that, I almost got defensive. And I could feel like this, like I was ready to make this comment, like, what do you mean by that? But I stopped myself and I observed, that is amazing. I was demanding from the world what I wanted from myself. And so it's interesting because that corridor, we keep on, you know, reflecting it out there. And we need the out there. We need to reflect on it because it's our mirror. But sooner or later on our journey, as each little alcove gets lit, as each experience gets enlightened, with each tight space in our chest that gets opened, or in our peace of mind is relieved. And the very thing that you want from God is actually, at least in my journey, was the very thing that I wanted from myself. And, you know, to be that. And I would say that has been the greatest and sweetest light or gift of light that this life has given me. And you really need the power, you know, the power to face that. But once you do, it's sweet. And I remember, you know, just that heat leaving me, and I felt so sweet. And I was like, thank you, such gratitude in Sister Chandra's practical kind of, you know, informal comment. You know, you just have to be real. And of course, it's a continuing exercise, you know. And so recently, I've been challenged because I had some students challenged me because they felt that using that spectrum of dark versus light, they had a hard time relating with this spectrum of dark versus light. Because they said, well, darkness is good. Why can't darkness be good? And light, why is light always good? And this kind of blew me away because they were African Americans. And this was something that really threw me off. This was earlier this year. And this whole idea that, you know, they feel because their complexion is dark, they're so identified with the physical because they're judged by their physical. Their identity is like locked in that. And me being light complected, I've lived a privileged life because of that. And I had a really long conversation with this really educated, articulate woman. And she was about my age. And she couldn't get behind this idea that the goodness was about light, was, that, and that evil was about dark. And I said, well, we're talking, I went around it. We're talking about igniting that awareness, realization, and that ignorance is about being in the dark. You can't see unless you have a lamp. But somehow she just couldn't use that value system of dark to light. And of course, if you have the sunlight, it kills germs and bacteria and mold. But then again, it was like she was really passionate about it. And so I said, well, that made me go deeper inside. And I began to use a different spectrum of value system of frequency, low frequency and high frequency. And of course, the kind of light that we're talking about is that light of awareness. Those, like, I would not have been ready to understand that what I wanted real in the world was for me to be real. I wouldn't have been ready for that light. It would have been blinding for me. But after a few decades of practice, then I could come to terms with that for myself. I was ready. So with this soul that had a hard time, really grasping the concept of a value system of that dark is evil and light is good, is divine, I really had to think differently so that I could give her the course, and explain to her. And so I just kept using frequency, dense, heavy, low energy. And of course, I love music. And I began to research on the whole mathematics of vibration, and that it creates these amazing geometrical shapes, and that the earth is humming at a 7.83 hertz per second. And because of the vibration of the planet, it's gone off. So it's no longer, so a value system based on frequency. And that when we understand this light, it's so intimate, it's so subtle. And remember how I expressed that vibration that I felt when I realized that this divine presence was my dad, or an intimate connection? And that vibration I felt in my chest. So it's interesting that this value system of light, and correlating it with a value system of frequency, that you could have such a subtle, intimate, pure frequency that it releases any heaviness from the heart or from the mind. And you just focus on that sweet vibration, or that subtle image of light. So I really exercised with that value system, and I'm glad that I had that exercise. So I have that language ready for me whenever I need to explain to someone. But now, interestingly, in the last few weeks, I've been embracing the light in a whole kind of in a different way, understanding this value system of light, because there's many forms of light that our eyes can't even catch. And I'm not even talking of infrared light. This divine light has a vibration. And so it takes a different kind of an intuitive skill to be sensitive to that light. So I thought it was interesting, coincidentally, that Sister Ranjan called me and asked me to, elaborate and share my experience about being an ignited lamp. And so that statement, that title, it's not enough to talk about light. It's not enough to light a lamp. It's not enough to just understand it, but to make that light real, you have to be it and sustain it through the darkness, through ignorance, through heavy energy, remaining light in the sense of LITE and LIGHT. So it's been a very interesting, and I really feel sort of a closer connection in a way of understanding vibration and illumination.
Very nice, Sister Elizabeth. And you have made it real. So yes, it's nice to listen to your experience. I think everyone must be enjoying and enjoyed. Is there anyone who has any questions?
Yes, she is a hidden treasure.
Thank you.
Hello, sister.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing about how you were able to benefit your logics even without any intention or effort to try to please them. So this is a very big lesson for me.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to try anything. We just, as you said, just have to be it and sustain it. Be lit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm assuming that you had a Christian background earlier. Did you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it starts with that fear for God is the beginning of wisdom. But as you said, you were not able to relate to a figure full of fear, which would make you fearful. So, how were you later able to explain it to others or help others overcome that image?
Oh, the fearful? Well, I guess I haven't really encountered, well, I'm sure I have encountered people, but I think it was more about going to the love and embracing the love, and in that connecting with God as this. I remember having a meditation where I experienced God couldn't wait to love me. I was keeping myself from experiencing that love. And it was just another experience I had that kind of really, I didn't realize I still had some old, traditional ways of looking at God. But I thought, I put off this one relationship of experiencing God to be your child. And to answer your question is, once you've experienced it for yourself, it will be infectious for others. It will naturally shift those you talk to. They will feel it from you. So I can't say I've had a conversation where I tried to convince someone of how loving God is, but I would just share my experiences. And one of them was that I imagined the divine, as the supreme being, as being my child. And I put it off for years, like 8 years, because I thought it was silly or childish. They would rock baby Jesus or the little Krishna. And I just thought it was like playing with dolls. I just thought it was, I'm sorry, that was my judgment in my head. And so I kept resisting it. And traffic control went off at 10:30 in the morning. And I thought, you know what, let me try this. And I was just in the library dusting, cleaning. And I just sat in the chair and I thought, okay, I'm going to imagine the divine as my little 3-year-old. And immediately I imagined this little person, little boy, kneeling in my lap with his chest against mine and his little hands cupping my face, and one hand was stroking the cheek, and the little face was looking up at me with this adoration and disbelief of how he could have such an amazing mother as me. And somehow that little combo just triggered something, and tears just streamed down my face. They were sweet tears. And then I just said, whoa, what is going on here? And I just stopped that experience. And I just said, you can't wait to love me. I am blocking the light. Fear blocks love. The divine is light. It just cannot have any reservations in the love. It's abundant. Because the Supreme Being never deviates from itself. It doesn't judge against. It discerns, it knows. And I opened the door, I just let that light in. That's all. And I experienced how unconditional in that respect of that innocence, how innocent that presence is. And so anyway, with that experience, or I would share that experience, or be that for others, and they'll, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
And then I have one more, that you said that those dark patches inside, they will come up when they are ready to be blown away, wiped out.
Yeah.
So for us who have come very late, it seems like there's not much time. How can we speed that process for those patches to come as quickly? As we know, we should be prepared to wipe them out and then allow them to come, but just share something about it.
Well, first, I would say that what I understand is as the confluence age moves on, there's Baba sort of turns up that vibration, so that so many souls are taking knowledge right now and are attracted to the light, to the vibration. And I would say it's a special time. They say last go fast and fast go first. And I still think it applies because the contrast is so evident. So try and work it through that you use this time as to your advantage. Okay? Because you're sincere and you're earnest, and not to have any heaviness or feel an urgency, because that'll block the light. What I do is I'll imagine that the soul is like a lake. You could say the mind, intellect, and sanskaras this consciousness is like a metaphor of a lake. And at the bottom of the lake are all these history, right? This memories, the sanskars are at the bottom of the lake. And then the intellect is perceiving this scene. And I can choose to look at the bottom of the lake, or I can choose to see the top of the lake or my own reflection in the lake, or I can choose to see what's the reflection of the world around me. If my mind is in chaos, then that's how I will see myself and I will see the world. If I'm still, then I will see things as they are. And I will see right to the bottom of that lake. And whatever needs to fall apart, decay, whatever's at the bottom of the lake that's old will disintegrate on its own. Time heals. Some things will surface and they need to be given attention. And what surfaces is what I'm able to handle. And it won't be more than what I can handle. The illusion will be that I can't, because sometimes it'll feel like, what? It'll feel like, where did this come from? Sometimes you can see it coming, and sometimes it feels like it's coming out of nowhere. But these things just come because they need that exposure to disseminate it. But time and yoga will disintegrate everything else. What's karmically, whatever comes, it comes to say namaste, finish, done. It's coming to say goodbye. But if I react to it, if I resist it, it'll hang around. If I love it, if I tempt it, it'll stick around. But if I just remain yogi, detached and loving, and I'll see it, let it unfold on its own, it gets its exposure to the light of day, of awareness, and it'll disseminate on its own. Not to be afraid of it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
Yes.
Okay.
It's 9:10 here. And
She has to sing.
we will, yeah, that's what I'm going to say. We will invite you definitely as soon as the lockdown is open, and have nice big program, music and meditation, and we will invite our interfaith friends, because we are doing interfaith programs, and it would be very nice for you to come to Dallas, and we can arrange a program for that. But for now, would you like to sing a song for us?
Okay, well, we can make this the closing meditation.
If you think so, yeah. I think that
You're out of time now, right?
it's, yes, it's nearly 9:15 here.
Yes, we'll just close with a nice kind of meditative song. Is that all right?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yes.
Okay. And it'll have to be without music.
It was so nice to hear your experience, right? It was beautiful, really, and authentic. Yes, very nice. You took us on.
Thank you so much, Ranjan Ben. I look forward to meeting you all very much.
Yeah.
So this is a song that has given me a lot of enlightenment. In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes to see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when I think I've lost my way, then I go inside and quiet my mind. I can feel the Spirit sweetly say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. Only love. Sweet Shiv Baba's love. Family love. Dallas love.
Thank you so much. You made it so real today.
Thank
You
you.
made it real
Oh,
and happy.
Thank you.
thank you,
Yes.
lovely voice. Thank you
Thank you,
for so much
sister.
love. Thank you for so
Thank
much
you.
love.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you so
Sister
much.
Thank you, sister.
Elizabeth,
Love.
Lots,
Thank you. Om
lots.
Shanti. Ma'am. Thank you. That was
Om
so
Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, sister.
Om
Thank you,
Shanti.
Iben. Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
That was a soul touching.
Night, everybody.
And a thank you to Ranjan Ben
Thank you
getting
very
this treasure.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Next
you.
time we will listen that Let It Go.
Okay. Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Om Shanti, Ben.
Om Shanti.
Brothers and sisters, good night.
Good night.
For your life of truth. Thank you for walking on this earth. Thank you for being you. The river flows back to the ocean. The trees turn